Welcome back, South by East fans, to the intersection where we talk about the scripture, the cultures, and everything that is in between. John, what we got today?
Oh man, today we have a meme-worthy clip from our brother Marvin Sapp. And you know what? Here's the deal. Here's the reality of where we live at. At some point, all of us are going to become a meme.
At some point, it's coming.
The question is like when and for how long.
Right.
And so, Brail, so let's before we go into the commentary, let's hit the clip.
Let's hit the clip. All right.
And they understand the cost that is involved. There's 1,000 of you. I said close them doors. Ushers, close the doors. Close the doors. Close the doors. It's 1,000 that's watching online. This is a small seed. If I get 1,000 online to give this, if I get 1,000 in the sanctuary to give this, that's $40,000 tonight. Now, everyone up here, we've all sowed and seeded, but I need everyone standing up here with us, with me, to plant a seed of $100. Because again, it costs to sit up here. And this is what I need you to do. If you're giving electronically, or even if you're giving tangibly, I'm gonna have y'all come to the altar and give it, because I need to see 1,000 people moving. Bring them baskets. I want the baskets up here. I want to see the folk. Y'all start moving. Y'all can bring it right now. Come. 1,000 people need to give $20. 1,000 people need to give $20. 1,000 people online need to give $20. This is easy, saints.
It was y'all start coming. It was a snap.
He said it's easy. The face was just the haze for me. Like, why are these baskets out there?
Bro.
Bring the baskets up here.
It was a snap when he said y'all start coming. It was like, oh, this ain't the first time. That was too easy.
Oh man.
So here's where we're at. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's a couple things in here. One, we don't have the full context with that clip. That's the clip that went full.
Yep.
And here's the deal also. Different traditions are different.
Okay, I think we're gonna end up in the same place. I thought I was gonna be a voice of dissension today, but it looks like we're gonna end up in the same place.
So here's the deal. When I went to seminary, I went to probably the largest non-denominational seminary. I think I know in the country.
Yes.
Dallas Theological Seminary. And they came from a tradition where they try to teach, like, hey, well, when you're preaching, you're not supposed to touch the lectern, you're not supposed to use notes, you're not supposed to do all these different things. But the deal is, I came from a tradition that was different. And I was like, you can be a great orator and do all these things
right
that you're saying not to do. I can still do those things, and I see it done every Sunday. Right. And I know people that can preach, all y'all that I've seen preach in here, under the table.
Yeah, I know y'all do that.
And like
because it's a different culture.
It's a different deal.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. What I saw in the video, that's not what we do.
No, that's not what
in
we
the
do.
culture in the culture that we have
that we've built
we have built here.
Yeah.
But I am of the realization that I grew up in a different culture type church. And here's the deal. Before people start bashing everything, I'm going to tell you, there's some things, the culture that I grew up in taught me that have been valuable to my faith. And although I might choose to practice my faith in some different ways, you won't see me bashing those who cared for me, who introduced me to the faith, who nurtured me at a young age in the faith, who had a really pivotal part in the person that I am today. So I think we have to look at that. So I'm conflicted, right? Because It's not what we would do.
I get it. So here's my thing, man. We've been sharing a lot of stuff around this. You haven't seen me like one joke. I haven't shared one thing. Now we've been sharing in a private chat with us and a few close friends. I ain't like nothing. I ain't laughing nothing. And I can't because for me, this bothered me. Yeah, that's right. It wasn't even us sharing. It was other people sharing. But I just couldn't even laugh because I was so conflicted. Because here's what bothered me the most. Church folks doing the videos and and I was like, hey, hold on now. Wait a second, fam. Because here's the thing. When he said close the door, they're like, man, he locking the congregation in. Now, if you grew up in an African-American church, what does it mean to hold the doors, John?
Man, look.
What does it mean to hold the door? I don't think all of our people know. Do you know what it means? When you say hold the doors,
nobody's supposed to be moving.
Nobody's supposed to be moving. You say hold the doors in times where when I grew up,
prayer.
It was hold the door during prayer. It was hold the door if communion, baptisms, you gonna hold the doors, and often offering. And it was a means of like, hey, we want to make sure everybody feels safe, everybody feels comfortable.
Not just that, everybody's respectful.
Right, everybody's respectful of what's happening.
But man, we've swung so far. Like, look, I swear that people, as we have transgressed through time, people's bladders must have shrunk.
Right.
Because when I was a kid, you used the restroom when you got there, and you sat down. And you better not ask to get up and look, services, me and you grew up in a tradition where services were a lot longer. Our services are an hour long, hour and 10 minutes at the most. Most of the time it's shorter than an hour. And people act like they got to walk continuously during service.
Yeah.
They act like, man, I got to have a Starbucks refill doing it. Like
it's football, up, down, up, down, up, down.
And I'm like, fam, this is ridiculous. And so part of it is a respect where there is a part of the respect that has been in laws where people feel like they got to continuously walk during service, man.
And here's the other thing, because this bothered me too with a lot of like church and religious comedians and stuff. I'm like, man, y'all know better. Because the other thing is this. In scripture, when I look at giving, like they're like, all right, maybe not holding the doors, but having people come down front. We've just been walking through the Old Testament at our church, right? And as we're walking through the Old Testament, I see God calling people to give. I see leaders calling people to give. And I never do I see it as a private thing. Now, I understand where people are at now, but when we talking about, I get the finances are personal, but like giving and gluttony are two of them sins that people just won't call out. And it's like when we refuse to do that, giving was always public. Like if giving wasn't public, you don't have Jesus in the woman who gives her last. You don't have Jesus in the mite. If giving isn't public, you don't have the testimony of how much was given when David was rebuilding. You don't have giving was a public corporate thing that happened.
But here's where I will push back. I also didn't like when I grew up in churches where they would read off how much everyone gave because everybody was in different positions. Right, and so my deal is this, and I didn't like that he put a number on it and said this is not much, because if we go back to the 2 mites deal, the woman with the 2 mites, right? It was like Jesus said, like, hey, it might have been less than all y'all, but it was all she had. So like to put a specific amount on it, I don't see that carried out anywhere.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I believe in this sacrificial generosity, right? Mm-hmm. The other part of it is. Okay, come, like, man, we want to do this where you come physically and come give your offering. I'm okay with that, but I don't think you have to call out what each person gave. I don't think you have to, it is an act, and whatever you put in there, you put in there. I don't think we have to count this in front of everybody. Yeah. I don't think we have to validate those pieces.
And I think his tone too is he made it compulsory. Like he made it compulsory, which is what the scripture is.
It was guilt driven in some ways in the way it was said.
Yep.
And so
to me that's the compulsion piece of like everybody should do this. You got to do it. I got to see you do it. It's like that is a social pressure.
The context that I got on it was that somebody said like, well, they were at a conference. They were trying to have to pay for the conference. People hadn't, and I was like, well, look, the way you fix that is this: you charge registration before the conference began, and you make sure the registration covers all the costs for the conference.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, and here's why. Because I think Marvin Sapp, I think his demeanor was really imposing and very aggressive. But I think he also knew not everybody's going to be able to get his $20. I think he knew
But
that.
I'm saying why? So, but my deal is, but you set yourself up to fail when you say, "Hey, we're going to throw this conference, and we're not going to charge." Most conferences you go to, the way they cover their cost for the conference,
is they're going to charge.
they're going to have a registration for it. They were at a conference for the denomination, and it's like, hey, to say we're going to depend on the offering gathered during the conference to pay for the conference, man, that puts you in
I don't know if that I agree, but I don't know if that's the full situation. I don't know if they were in debt if they didn't get
no.
40 grand.
That's what I read some more context on it, and
Okay,
they said
well, I
that.
went and saw him talk about it, and that's not quite what he said. But I can see that. Like if that's the case, like if you really needed the 40K, then yeah, you should have made sure that was covered
In the
another way.
registration,
I agree with that. I agree
because
with
you
that.
can't go into an event because then it is like hijacking people.
Yeah,
It
I
is
agree
like
with that.
hijacking people. If you're saying like now that you're here,
So
I got to get this amount of money out
watched
of
at
you.
one point. He went out and talked about it. He was like, "Hey, $40,000 was some of the money that they needed to cover, that they wanted to cover some costs. I knew that part of my job being there was to raise funds. There was a specific point in the service where I was supposed to raise funds. I was like, hey, we could all, the amount of people that are here, we should be able to raise this amount of money. Boom, boom, boom. And so I set it up like that. He's like, I was a little aggressive, so I apologize for that. But I was trying to, and I was,
Here's where we got to be different. If this was a fundraising banquet and we all showed up knowing this was a fundraising banquet, totally fine with what he did. This was a worship service as a part of a denominational conference. Two different things.
two different things.
And my deal is so if I know, so here's the deal. If I come into a a fundraising banquet for an organization, for a denomination, for a
Right.
church or whatever, for
Right.
whatever else, I know there's gonna be an
You know there's going
ask
to be an ask.
as a piece of this, right? But if I'm coming to a worship conference to learn, or a conference for my denomination to learn, or different things of that nature, I know there's going to be an offering, but I don't know like there's going to be this really aggressive ask for a certain amount.
Well, and to me, that's the thing is, it was the amount. I still think you take up offering. I don't have any problem with that.
I don't have a problem with the offering.
I don't even have any problem with him trying to raise a certain amount. My issue is with the $20. I don't have a problem with him raising a certain amount. I don't have a problem with us putting numbers on money. I think we're too gun shy on that, and I think we need to be in some spaces.
My deal is
because of where people are.
No, my deal is this, right? If I come into a fundraising event and I know that the purpose of us gathering is a fundraising event, okay, we got a target number. Man, but look, when I stand in front of the body in a worship service, I want you to give because it's of what Christ has done for you and a reflection of God's generosity to us in a sacrificial manner. Now, do I know, like, just from budgeting and stuff, we got to meet certain numbers and different things of that nature? Yeah, but man, but that's a part of the leader also trusting God in that, man. And it's not like, you haven't seen me shy away from giving and stuff like that.
No.
But I'm like, man, to put an amount and come in and be like, well, I got to raise this 40 grand and I'm going to put somebody up here. This has now changed. For me, it's purpose. It's purpose. This has changed this worship gathering into a fundraising event, and we got to be careful about that.
Yeah,
I'm not saying worship gatherings shouldn't have places for sacrificial generosity. We practice that all the time. But we also never stand up and say, everybody got to give 20. Now, we have encouraged the body at times like, hey, for us to be able to meet budget, we need you to put 5 on it.
Put 5
right?
on it. 5
but that's 5 on whatever you have.
Right.
But we've also
Yep.
said, if you don't have that, we understand. But we want to encourage, like, if you do this, this is the result.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference, man. Is setting up that why. Like, and it's a clip. It's out of context, and it's like that's also why I'm like, we don't know what else he said. I don't know what his sermon was over.
Yeah,
I don't know where he was at, and I'm like, man, that it's a bad look. That looks really bad. And I'm like, let's have some grace. Like, he came out and made a statement. I saw, like, he put a statement on his deal and was like, hey, here's the background. Here's what we're trying to do. Here's where we're at. And so I'm like, hey, we gotta have some grace. Because here's my thing too: is there's a whole bunch of people that aren't believers who are watching this and who are like, "Oh man, see, I knew." And then you have all these Christians who are like adding to that narrative, knowing that we know a whole lot more context.
But here's where I want to be careful of too. We got to be able to laugh at ourselves too.
Yes.
Look, Christian comedians, you know what they do? They
tell
jokes. They tell jokes. Do we not want Christian comedians? Do we want everybody to be a secular comedian?
No.
Or if not, we're gonna laugh at ourselves. So we gotta be able to laugh at ourselves too. So there's pieces of this.
Yes.
There's pieces of this.
Yep.
And I feel like more than him and his actions, I feel like the organizers set him up to fail by saying, we want you to go out there and raise $40,000 during this offer. Like that. This is a worship service. People didn't show up to a fundraising event.
Yeah, I get it. But what do y'all think? Is this a difference of culture, a difference of opinion? Was he out of pocket? Let's talk about it here in the intersection. Continue to comment, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week
In the intersection.